Going live. Yay. It says I am live here. I was going to set up this other tablet over here to make sure that my connection is okay and stable. Just making sure there's no red bars. Hopefully you guys are doing well. I was actually just being a little bit entertained and kind of irritated by reading lies that are being posted by me, or about me, I mean. It's just kind of interesting to see what other people say. And then another person jumped on there and started saying that I'm Jewish, which I'm not, and that I have like all of these connections and that my husband's in real estate. I'm not married. So it's just like they just start rattling off lies. And then someone else will come in and be like, oh, yeah. And they like and love it. And now all of a sudden, I don't know, it's just interesting to see. But yeah, hopefully people will look into these things and not just believe what is being said, because it's just completely preposterous. I don't know. This is really funny. David, he says, where do these allegations happen? Kevin Broccoli, I think their name is, got booted from one of the groups. I'm not even sure if it was me that did it. Kevin Broccoli. He looked like this. So yeah, they tried to tag me in the post 2 days ago. I can send it to you if you want, but yeah, they twist a lot of the things that I've said and don't understand veganism and the connection that it is to non-veganism. And so, yeah, I'm trying to find the actual post. But basically saying that I want people to go vegan so that the non-vegan, or so that the non-human, entities that are running this world can have a healthier vegetable eating goyim. That completely misses the connection that when you're eating animals, that's when they can eat you. When you remove that, when you take yourself out of that circle of life game that they're playing, they're not going to come and eat you because they know that karma's real. They're a lot smarter than most humans. Most of them are smarter than all of us. But yeah, there are at least some of us that have made these connections and see how obvious it is that if I go out and eat babies of another species, then another species can come and eat my babies. I'm consenting to that happening by partaking in that behavior. You're karmically saying that you're okay with that happening to you. So there's definitely no, in the same post, I'm just like saying, don't eat babies of any species. So yeah, they're accusing me of prioritizing or valuing animal babies over human babies. And that's not true, because I say stop eating babies of all species. I see children and animals as the helpless innocents that we are charged with protecting and nurturing and caring for. And so, yeah, it's really irritating when people try to falsely accuse me of doing anything against children or any of that, because I value their innocence and it's really just innocence that it comes down to, and how bright and beautiful children are before they go into the systems and get fluoridated and all these other things that are designed to break them down and, cause the light to go out of their eyes, dim the fire inside their souls. So, hey, Kyle, how's it going? Kyle says it's always people with no face on their profile. I know, right? And so, yeah, David D, I'm not really sure what happened with the activity log, or if I kicked them out, or if somebody else did, or if they just left the group themselves and then they're blaming us. I don't actually remember. I've had a little bit of a chaotic week. And one really cool thing that just happened last night that I wanted to talk to you about was this vegan dinner that I got to go to up near Talent. Well, I think it was in Talent, Oregon, which is like Ashland and Medford. It's between there somewhere. And So previously to having being invited to this dinner, I actually saw their ad thing on Happy Cow. It's called a Drunken Farms Sanctuary, I think. And they have like monthly invite only dinners, which it was so awesome to see like what other people are doing. And there was goats there, obviously. None of them were drunk. So I'm not really sure. Like, hey guys, where's the drunken goats that we were promised, right? Just kidding. Um, but yeah, it was really nice. I'll have to post some of the pictures that I got because they had this outdoor tent set up, and I'm not sure if you can actually see this. They actually like bought this outdoor tent, so they have all of this stuff, these really beautiful wooden tables. It was like so decked out. They had these heaters on, as you can see. They had just some really let me bring up the menu. You can't necessarily see it, but she had so many options here, and the theme was breakfast. And I went in like wanting to try new things, and I'm quite a picky eater. So I was a little bit worried about that, but everything that I had was so, so good. There was like a frittata, a tofu based frittata type thing. And it was, I wouldn't normally like anything like quiche or egg, like I would not even touch, but this stuff was so good. There's also some really tasty crepes and some really delicious monkey bread. That was just part of what was on this spread. It was really awesome. So I'm looking forward to being able to go back to that next month. I'm not sure. I think that it changes every month, the cuisine style. But yeah, it was really, really cool because not only did I get to connect with a bunch of vegans and have some really amazing food, but not only the lady that was hosting it, but another lady was there. Both of these two together are the ones that actually organize the Southern Oregon Veg Fest that I got to go to last year. If you look through my previous live streams, I went live and did a little walkthrough with it. I was talking about potentially helping volunteer there because they have some cows, and I guess they actually just got some new cows. So that's really cool. But I got to talk a little bit more in depth with the owner of this sanctuary, and we're going to be collaborating on, them coming down to some of my events, and also having like a volunteer day up there where we can maybe hopefully bring up some of the Shasta vegans, maybe even from Redding, to go up and help out wherever is needed on the farm, because it definitely takes a lot to run a sanctuary. And unlike a actual farm, the government's not bailing them out. All of these other factors that are, monetary focused, they don't have these oftentimes in sanctuaries, right? Because it's not like they're selling the milk or the flesh or all of these things to come back into funding the sanctuary. So it's going to be really exciting to see where that goes and what kind of opportunities that I can have to help volunteer there. And yeah, so cool, like really awesome. I would love to have dinners like that as well, but I know how much work it goes into all of these parties. So we'll have to just put that on the shelf for later. But in the meantime, the next vegan event that I'm going to be planning is an Easter party of some sort. Not really sure what we're going to do, or what the theme might be or whatever, but I definitely want to celebrate Easter and try to bring back the original energy that is celebrating that holiday, which is celebrating, birds having babies and new little baby sheep and animals running around, right? And they've turned it into this complete opposite, this baby slaughter, stealing the eggs from the birds, cracking them open and eating them. We train kids from a young age to try to run around and find eggs, and there's a prize in the middle, right? A special treat. So it's interesting to think about that, and then how people are like addicted to actually eating eggs too, and that kind of programming that maybe is associated with all of that. So woohoo. Anyways, that party I think is going to be on April 19th around 2 maybe, so that people from Redding can come up and enjoy it with us. And yeah. Speaking of the people from Reading, I was thinking of maybe reaching out to the lady that owns the sanctuary and seeing how she might feel about having like a little vegan camp out, just like a one night thing where, especially people that are a little bit further away, we could all come up there and do some work during the day, maybe have a really big dinner during the night, a fire or something, and then camp there overnight and then maybe do some work and head home the next day. That would be so cool. So we'll see where all of that leads. But yeah, I was like, I'm a little bit starstruck right now because you guys are the ones that put together the Southern Oregon Veg Fest. And I think the first year that they did, they had like over 2,000 people. Last year, me and my friend Shayna and her son went. And I was really impressed by how many people were there and how many vendors and how well oiled the machine was. And actually, she had mentioned that there's potentially an opportunity for some vegan performers to make some music. So I'm not really sure. Like, I'm excited to see what is going to happen. I think it's going to be on Sunday, June 8th, Veg Fest, the next upcoming one. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll get a Shasta Vegan Community booth going on and play some music and have some fun. I love giving out free food, especially to show people that they can have cheese and chocolates and all this delicious stuff as a vegan. We're not missing out on anything. So that is really exciting. David D says the karmic mechanisms are so obvious once you have the eyes to see. Exactly. So it's kind of frustrating when so many truthers don't see it as well because it's so obvious. But at the same time, there's dark forces, there's demons, there's parasites, there's addictions, there's programming. There's a lot of stuff that you have to work through to be able to even kind of question your lifestyle choice. And veganism isn't just a diet, although you can look in the dictionary and it will say, someone who abstains from eating these things. The true heart of veganism is about the animals and focusing on making a better world for them and giving them the rights that we want ourselves, the right to be free, the right to be, not living in fear of just frolicking in the forest and someone shooting you from afar, right? Just so that they can eat you. We don't want our children taken. We don't want to be forced vaccinated. We don't want to do all of these things. We just need to extend that to the animals so that it's fair. And that's what veganism is about. So when you come across people that say, oh, I tried veganism and it failed or whatever, or I was vegan for 5 years, I went back. Well, that doesn't make sense once you actually understand veganism, not just the karmic mechanisms, but yeah, that connection with the compassion and the love that is really inside all of us. And from a young age, you can see that kids are, they want to love animals. Most kids, obviously, not everyone's an animal person. But if you were to have a rabbit and an apple or, maybe some berries or something and give those to a baby, the baby's going to pet the rabbit. They're going to snuggle with the rabbit and they're going to eat the berries, right? They're not going to have this perverse idea to dismember the rabbit and take its skin off and take its innards out and then cook it and then eat it. Like that's not, it's learned behavior. And obviously you can say the same thing with cooking and a lot of other things. And realistically, we need to question all of the things because even just cooking food, as most of you guys already know, the nutrients, the life force energy that gets diminished over time by adding heat to it. Just like the Essene Christ basically says, don't freeze your food, don't burn your food, don't basically just eat it the way that nature, God, intended for us. Just go up to the tree, pick off the apple, don't add anything to it, just eat it, take the seeds, and make beautiful apple tree babies. Cal says, the Veg Fest Sage and I went to was pretty cool. I wish we could have that in Michigan. You were talking about the Chicago one, right? I believe. Yeah, this summer has actually been really cool because I got to go to the Southern Oregon Veg Fest in June, and then I got to go to the Sacramento Veg Fest, and then also I got to go to LA for their Veg Fest. So all the Veg Fests that I can go to, I'm trying. It's interesting to see some of them that are bigger and how they're set up and how they're different and how they're the same. But it's so cool to like the one in Sacramento, I believe, was on their college campus. So it's just like right in the middle of all of this with people going by and all this exposure to veganism. And they had, food vendors and stuff there as well. So it's a really great opportunity to show people what veganism is about. And I would love to have like a real vegan festival on the mountain with vendors and food trucks and all of that fun stuff in the future. Fortunately, there's not a big vegan community around here, but at the same time, the other day I was getting Starbucks. I know it's poison. I know, questionable business, whatever. Technically, all the businesses are owned by the same people, so let's not split hairs over that. But the happy part was that the girl at the window actually said that she was vegan and she hadn't eaten that she hadn't consumed cow's milk in like a decade or something like that. So I think there might be a lot of other vegans that are just not aware that this community is forming. Maybe they don't feel confident enough to come out to one of the events and other factors like that. So I'm going to make better effort, like maybe for Easter, to go to local coffee shops and just say, hey, this event's going on. Like, is there a bulletin board or something that we can post this up, or just invite the workers and try to grow a little bit more of the community. So David, he says, fighting this war is especially tough as you fall under additional curse energy when you push back against these dark forces, right? There's a spiritual battle that's going on, and most people are walking through life completely blind, and there's just this base level of attack that's just a general thing. But then when you kind of wake up and you're like, oh shoot, I'm in a war, let me be more active against these things, then they're going to be like stepping up their game too, just like in a game of chess. But ultimately, these enemies that are against us are understand that karma is real. So that's a good thing to know, that if we, watch our step, then they can't, there's protection in wisdom. And, I think what I was going to say though is that a lot of these enemies, including Satan, are just technically our older siblings, and there is some sibling rivalry involved and some fighting in that. But there's also family. God's household is only one. There's one God the Father, there's one mother, and all of us are their children, no matter what species that we are. And ultimately, they want us all to get along instead of fighting. So we have to stop picking on our baby cow brothers and sisters, and they have to stop picking on us. So David says, eating flesh stops the animal blood from flowing. They are dead. So it is only fair that those that eat flesh will eventually have their blood stop. Definitely. We are dealing with an influx of anti-vegan trolls. Most promote carnivore diet. Carnivore diet does cure multiple diseases, but eventually you will die from clogged arteries. Yeah, and it is a black magic spell, because you're eating babies. And just like the powers that be, if they go and sacrifice a human baby and they consume that blood, the adrenochrome, that gives them youth, it gives them temporary benefits, but they have to, it wears off. It's like, and it comes at the cost of your soul. So the real way to heal your diseases is by purifying yourself and fasting and fruit, basically. So obviously not as easy as just staying with the standard American diet and just going further into the evil part of it, right? You're already used to eating meat and dairy and stuff, and they're like, oh, hey, here's this diet where you just eat nothing but bacon. Well, I don't know, it's not really nothing but bacon, but you get the point. They're eating all of this stuff that is, like David D is saying, clogging your arteries, and it's just doubling, tripling down on the evil, because they're like, oh, we barely eat plants at all, if I don't know, I don't actually know the specific things that they do eat on the carnivore diet, but I do know that real carnivores eat their prey raw. And they usually go for like the organs, because that has the most nutrients and, um, you know, nutrients in it. So yeah. Hey, Abdul A, how's it going? It has been a long time no see. Cute tan. Oh, I wish I had a tan, but I think it's just the lighting, but thanks. The lowest fruit is convincing people against veal. Well, there's definitely a lot of people that are against veal, but yeah, realistically, all of the animals are babies that are being consumed anyways. So part of it doesn't, yeah. But anyways, it is a good start. Realistically, anywhere is a good start. But at the same time, there's animals that are in line right now to be slaughtered. So we don't really have time for you to sit here and make baby steps and for you to be emotionally okay with not having meat and eggs and cheese anymore. Like, your emotional issues and your addictions are not more important than the lives of these animals. They don't consent. They don't want to be involved with your mess. You need to clean up your own mess. And eating animals is not going to help that. It's just going to make it even worse. So, yeah. Abdullah A says I'm glowing. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that because I have not been eating very good food lately. Well, it's good food. It tastes really good, but it's junk food. So I'm happy that I'm glowing, even though I'm not being the best. David D says adrenochrome provides a temporary youth and high that wears off and leaves you addicted. Most of the population is addicted to adrenalized baby flesh, baby cows, baby pigs, baby chicken. Exactly. And then they want to turn and judge the other species for being addicted to the same thing that they're addicted to as well. It's kind of crazy. Hey, Scott, how's it going? Loved your Valentine's concert. Oh, thanks. Me and my girlfriend listened to it together last weekend. Oh, that's so cool. Thanks. Yeah, it'd be nice to start doing more like recording, and fill it out with more instruments, and all that. So Kyle says, I don't know how people eat raw meat and promote it. Yuck. Yeah, I know that a lot of these psyops obviously start with the inverted. They're, these influencers, and then there'll be a bunch of them that jump on the bandwagon and defend it, just like with the drinking pee, right? There's a handful of inverts in the community. We have video of them, right? Patrick Steer talking about drinking pee and putting it on their face, right? And they influence other people. And now all of a sudden we have like someone even today was like, there's a whole group of vegan flat earthers that drink their pee. And I'm like, dude, I know that. That doesn't reflect on me at all. Just because there is a small group of degenerates out there that have been confused and stuff, that doesn't reflect on vegan flat earthers in general. So anyways, long story long, even with the raw meat thing, that one, what was that flat earther SV3 Ridge or whatever, that was going around like eating, were they eating intestines or something? Like, hey, how's it going?
Good.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
I'm setting up a room in here doing a video for my dog healing thing.
Oh, cool.
So I'm getting all the lighting. I did one, just a temporary one.
Uh-huh.
Really terrible. My skin was all red, everything bright red.
So, oh, wow. Hi.
I was going to find someone to help me with, hire to do video.
Yeah.
Everybody flakes, man.
Yeah.
I'll do it myself.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. I'm not a big fan of that. Okay. Anyways, hello, Ukraine. How's it going? Hopefully you're doing well. I didn't even tell you guys, it's a pretty gloomy day outside. I can't even see Mount Shasta and it's a little bit cold. But otherwise, the weather has been really, really nice recently. And so I'm excited that it seems that, spring is in the air and summer is around the corner. Woo! Davey says, I thought Trump was wrapping up the Ukrainian war. I'm not really sure about any of that specific part. I actually haven't been paying attention to what's been going on the political front. It is interesting though to see like Elon Musk being in the White House and some different, transhuman things. And it's also interesting to see, Trump was like a really big supporter of the jab. Brags that we wouldn't have the jab without them. They're the father of the COVID jab, right? And like people still will like think that that's a hero when they're like responsible for helping to depopulate humanity. But yeah, it's just some of the interesting things to see. I don't know what's going to happen. Anyways, Davey says Patrick Steer is posted again, but he's only posting out videos recorded 10 years ago. Oh yeah, that I saw that as well. But aren't they doing some more recent lives with Mark Sargent now? Flat Earth and other, the secret show, Flat Earth secret show. It's so secret that nobody knows about it. Anyways, I don't know. That's how little I care about what they got going on. But yeah, Abdul A says SV3 Ridge is a hugely controversial figure. He speaks out against gym culture, saying it ages, and asks to focus on aesthetics. Interesting. I think they also, I'm pretty sure that they had a video out before that was trying to normalize incest. And they've just done, controversial figure is definitely. Yeah. My shirt says my body is not a graveyard. And then in this little fence thing, it says go vegan. So I got this at the Sacramento Veg Fest. So cool. Abdul A says you've got tattoos. Yes, I do have a few tattoos. I got them all before I went vegan, and I am not sure that I, going back in time would get them again. But I have some musical notes behind my ear. And I also have a blue rose on my foot, which is really cool. Because I didn't even know anything about the Order of the Blue Rose when I got that tattoo. And then I found out about the Order of the Blue Rose and how Mary, led this society basically, and her and Christ like had this little love story, and he gave her this blue rose, and like it's just really, really cool to see later down the line that I don't know, my soul's already connecting to these things. So really cool. David says Elon Musk is the new right-wing hero, eliminating billions in government waste. See you later, Ukraine. Yeah. They always get people to cheer for, let's eliminate government waste, or let's drain the swamp, or all of these things. But then there's like a twisted like reason behind it, and there's chaos coming and other things. So we'll see what happens with the eliminating government waste and the AI that they're trying to bring in, and all of that. It'll be interesting to unfold, but it's kind of, they get people to cheer for these things and want these things so that they can be the hero and bring them, even though they're the ones that caused the problem in the first place, right? David D says, I'll have to check and see, I think regarding, the secret show. And also David D said, I thought it said my body is hot initially. Well, kind of does look like that if I lean down a little bit and cover up the nice. Abdullah says incest as in a cousin marriage. Any of the sibling or any family stuff. But I think they were trying to relate it to how the supposed elites, the royals and all of these inbreed and try to keep the money and wealth in the families, and that creates psychopaths and all other sorts of disorders, because God didn't intend for us to be having any sorts of inappropriate relationships with our family members. Like, not good. Abdul A says Mary Magdalene. Yes. Thoughts on minarchism? I'm not sure what that is. Let's see. Or do you mean monarchism? Because I am definitely a monarchist for sure. Monarchism. Is that what you mean? Oh, nope. You mean minarchism. Okay. Darn it. Night Watchman state, also referred to as minimal state or minarchy, whose proponents are known as minarchists. The state that is limited and minimal, whose functions depend on libertarian theory. So I do, I guess, have mixed thoughts because I think that the government is really good. I think that there should be laws and rules in place so that society can function properly. But obviously, the way that the powers that be are doing it, there's like way too much overstepping in everything and taxing you for things and just, really crushing humans down. And anything that you do can be an offense, down the road. So we already see that kind of with homelessness and the situation, like these people that are desperate and poor and they're punished for it. Like, you're not allowed to camp there. Here's your fine, right? So yeah. Dan O'Brien says you're a monarchist. Yes, I am. David D says a huge number of government jobs have been eliminated. Huge numbers are joining the unemployment line. Exactly. So that's going to have its own effects too on real humans that are trying to make their ends meet too. Now they don't have their jobs. So yeah. That reminds me, how's the blue rose at home doing? It's great. I have a little bit of a collection of blue roses. So it's cool to see them building up. And then those, the blue rose lights that I had on the piano the last week or two. Yeah, I just need to have like a blue rose altar. David D says Queen is a monarchist. Shocking. Exactly. Abdullah A says our cousin's family. Yes, your cousins are your family. Yes. Elon Musk is a minarchist. I'm not really sure if that's true. They might claim to be one, but I think that the powers that be, including Elon Musk, because Elon Musk is part of their group, want that totalitarian state and having AI to enforce it. And basically, yeah, if they, in their, utopian future, everything is completely controlled. The robots are the ones that have the job, so that you have to be desperate and poor in their bread lines and doing other things to try to make ends meet. And when I first started to wake up, I was worried about that future. And I was like, oh my gosh, AI is going to come and take all of our jobs and it's going to be whatever. Now I'm like, AI is going to come and it's going to take all of our jobs and it's going to be awesome because now we get to go and do fun things that our soul actually wants to do. But the difference is that in the golden age, we have the things that we need. You don't need to be standing in a bread line because we're all prosperous. There's food everywhere. There's fruit growing in the city park, down the road, everywhere that we can. It's just abundance. So yeah. David D says we have never had a real monarchy. Dan says, how is monarchy different than mafia? That's an interesting question. Well, this says the mafia is a body that's ruled by criminals. So that's not really good. Organized group using extortion and other criminal methods. Obviously the monarchy that they have in England right now is doing these things that you accuse them of. And I agree, that is very mafia-esque behavior, and they do extort people and all that stuff. But that's not the point of the golden age in that monarchy. It's to be doing what is best for all of the humans and the animals and just making sure that happens. In the golden age, there's no these ridiculous extortions, the taxes, the fees, the penalties, all of these things that we have now that are mafia. That's not going to be a thing in the future. So a proper monarchy is doing what's best for the kingdom and all the species in it and making the place better instead of what can we take and hoard and crush down and restrict and control all that. So David D is saying that we have never had a real monarchy, only Satan's inverts, but Bible points out monarchy will rule over the millennial reign. Yeah, like most people are already okay with calling Christ the king and this, form of monarchy in that way. So yeah. Abdullah A says lots of cultures do cousin marriages, including royals of your heritage. Well, I did acknowledge the royals that do that. I don't have any inbred royals in my heritage. But yeah, I know that there's other cultures that do that, and I don't believe that it's right. So just I don't know. Job loss equals loss of income. Yes. Those eyes are so expressive. Oh, thank you. Do you observe kashrut, kosher laws? I used to follow the Torah laws, but this is, I was going to say, doesn't this have to do a lot with animal slaughter and stuff? Because I, obviously, as a vegan, don't do that. So I'm not really sure what kosher laws would apply to plants. So technically, no, I don't. But I have to do some research because it's kind of an interesting. I don't know their laws. So Dan says I get gang stalked by royals here in Canada. Oh man. Well, there's a lot of stories out there about targeted individuals, and especially like we were saying earlier, once you start to wake up and see the reality that we're in and actively try to fight back against that, you definitely put a target on your back, so to speak. But ultimately, I know that my soul came here knowing that this was a battlefield in order to do something better, to win the game, to get to the golden age, to help make a better world. And I know that a lot of people that are listening to me also came in for that reason as well. And so it's exciting that we get to wake up and fight, but there also is, downfalls. It can be hard. It can be really lonely. You can lose your family members, you lose friends, a lot of different things. But it's nice that, at least we get to connect here. So yeah, Abdul A says that they're trying to crown Trump as king. Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of the patriots in America would be gung ho for that. Is that the right word? There's a lot of like pictures going around. Well, at least one of like Trump at their desk in the White House and like Christ's hand on them and like just romanticizing this superhero like picture of Trump. And yeah, it's kind of nauseating, but at the same time, I guess I do have to be like, she's got a pretty big cult following. Like it's kind of impressive. But when you have all this money and you're promoted as this character, when these people that are souls that are running our world have put all these pieces into place for you to take that role, and everything is like building you up for that, it's easy. Trump's not being shadow banned. So Trump has all this money, the platform, the people, all this stuff. Is it actually really that impressive when they have all these tools and they're just lying and manipulating? I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But anyways. Abdullah A says, have I been gang stalked? I have not. I do know that I am swarmed often though, but that's a different story, especially in Mount Shasta. Like I've said, coming here to purify, there's other forces that come here. They know that keeping this root corrupt is part of why they're here. So yeah, you get a mixed bag around Mount Shasta. David says, gang stalkers are agents of Satan's matrix sent to harass those who are waking others up. They are limited, can harass, but not kill us. Most of these attacks are demonic in nature. Fewer are gang stalkers. Yeah, and as far as the demonic in nature, like they get us to take our own selves out and defeat ourselves. We become our own worst enemies. I myself included. So often the battle is like within ourselves and us fighting, whether it's, I don't know. It's kind of the old matrix programming, the programming and the addictions and the old lifestyles versus like our soul and what our soul came here to do, and not having those addictions and just living differently. So, um, Abdullah A says, "Didn't people in the Bible marry cousins?" Yeah, I don't you really use the Bible as a moral compass definitely anymore. And I also don't believe a lot of it is true. So, yeah. David says Trump is being promoted by the system and it's working. Yes. Abdullah A says, "Hope someone has a new pew pew." I don't have any new guns, but I would love to get a new gun. So I definitely encourage other people to have them for their own safety. Get some gold, get some silver, have emergency supply of food. You never know what's going to happen, and it's way better to be prepared, especially if you have kids. Yeah, just be prepared. Hey, Gloria, how's it going? Hello, Queen, checking in. Hopefully you're doing well. Bob, how's it going? Bob says, "I am now on 1 hour break starting at 12:30 for my subscription to the live stream from the Matrix Rehab Tour." Interesting. What's that? And holy shit, I am blown away and must send you the synopsis since need your comments. Okay, that sounds really interesting. This is the big picture of our reality that I have ever seen. Wow, that sounds really interesting. Matrix Rehab Tour. Let's look at this. Matrix Rehab Tour. Opening the green door. Join me on a transformative journey to support your awakening and ascension process designed to help you break free from limitations and step into a higher state of consciousness. This event will guide you through powerful programs drawn from the deep space files, exploring the true path of ascension and uncover some of the most profound and forbidden knowledge. Ooh. Embark on a deep dive into wisdom that can unlock your potential, elevate your awareness, and empower your spiritual evolution. Yeah, that's interesting. You'll definitely have to send me some of the information that you learned from that, Bob, because that sounds so cool. Abdullah says, "Are you trained in guns?" Can I not say that, or like, am I gonna get banned for saying guns? I'm not monetized or anything, so I don't think. Anyways, no, I'm not technically trained, but I've been around guns my whole life. My family's not hunters or anything, but they're definitely, gun toting, Bible quoting, they're not rednecks actually at all, but like they're patriotic, conservative, all of that kind of stuff. So anyways, I've been around guns a lot. Dan says most public figures have royal lookalikes. There are Facebook sites and YouTube videos about it. Actor-based reality. There is definitely a lot of lookalikeism that happens, but also other things to consider is that they're all related. They're like inbred. And also when they're inverts and they have to use like surrogates and these unnatural means of reproduction, there's a higher chance that they're going to have multiples. So it is interesting too, like there's just like a lot of lookalikes, and part of that is why. So Abdullah A says, "Is America the land of the free?" No. We have the illusion of freedom while having to pay a bunch of taxes, have your license and registration ready, your papers like Nazi Germany. Yeah, but it's a nice little illusion of freedom until you wake up and you're like, wow, we're actually not free. Like it was a good one. Good joke, guys. But yeah. Kyle says you should push Ellie's to other offer vegan options. I actually tried to talk to their baker before and say you could literally swap out the eggs for applesauce and make this exact dessert, and you can sell it to anyone. Why wouldn't you want to do that anyways? You literally open your market to both sides because non-vegans can eat vegan food and so can vegans, right? So you're really just limiting yourself by staying in that option. But I haven't been to Ellie's for a while, Kyle. But I do have some information from the plant-based treaty people that I want to go around town to various coffee shops and stuff, and start promoting that and getting them to offer more vegan options, not just for the animals, but for the environment, for our own spiritual well-being, and ultimately to make Shasta vegan. David D says, what are you planning for your Easter event? I have been thinking about that because I'm not really sure. I was looking at what other people do and like thinking about brunch and all this stuff. So I'm not sure actually what the plan is yet. So if anybody else has any ideas, I'm definitely open to hearing what those are. The ice cream social, like many of you know, went really well, and it was really fun to put together. So yeah. Abdullah A says, why don't you subscribe to organized religion? We think that there is a true religion, and bits and pieces of the truth have been kind of scattered about through various religions to keep us all divided and conquered. But I don't believe that any one organized religion at this point has it right. And even further than that, I don't have like a pastor or like any spiritual gurus or anybody that I listen to. I lead myself. And actually, I was recently kind of offered to be like a preacher kind of role here in the future church that they're making here. So we'll see how that goes. If it's going to be a vegan church, then, you know, I got to be involved. Abdullah A says, I hope you get monetized. I won't get monetized ever because I don't want people to think that I'm doing this for money. And I also want to have the freedom to say whatever I want to say. I guess to some extent, because I can't talk about jabs without getting medical misinformation, you know, nonsense. So Abdullah A says it's okay to say Bible thumping. Well, I think I said gun toting and Bible quoting. But I do say Bible thumping all the time. And oh yeah, I used to be a Bible thumper. Why does taxation exist in America when the reason for it existing is refusal of taxation? Hey, buddy, why don't you get in front of Americans and bring that question up? Because that's a very good question. But realistically, we're taxed because we tax the animals for their milk, for their eggs, for their flesh. So technically, it's karma. And once people wake up to that, then that's when we can actually change. Because if you just like, if half of humans just like, oh, we're not paying taxes tomorrow, like they're already still in control. That's just not going to fly. You're not going to get that kind of organization anyways. We have to stop deserving being taxed to stop being taxed. David D says America is the least free, taxed and overpriced out to homelessness. Yep, it's like a prison hell in America now. Yep. Abdul A says, does veganism lead to brain fog? I think that when you go vegan, the brain fog is actually lifted because you start to see things more clearly. And you really don't realize the state of like this dark spell that you're under when you're living as a meat eater and participating in those lifestyles, eating disgusting things. You're degrading yourself. And there's a yogi, I put out some information from them before, that has done muscle testing. And they say that anytime that you eat flesh, it actually shuts down your higher energy centers. So it's working directly against like ascension processes, trying to expand your consciousness and awaken yourself. Dan says free speech is huge. The right to bear arms. Yeah, and speaking of huge, like Trump says, they have supported red flag laws. So that means that someone can say, hey, my neighbor's, saying scary things online. Like there's ways that they can essentially take your guns away by using your family or other factors against you and claiming that you're a threat. And so, yeah. Kyle says it doesn't surprise me that you haven't been to Ellie's in a while because they don't offer vegan options. I know. And then I have to go in there and like smell this cinnamon roll. Like the smell of cinnamon is amazing. And then there's no cinnamon rolls for me to eat. So it's a bummer. Jacob, how's it going? I don't think our creator wants anything to do with organized religion. Well, especially the way that it is now. But yeah, you could definitely make an argument for him not wanting like big groups of church and stuff too. But I do think that he would be happy with all of us aligning to the truth and, being part of the true religion in that way. Abdullah A says, the Bible says women can't teach in church. Yes, actually. Paul says that. Good old Paul. Knowing that Christ's like main student was Mary, and there's even stories in these other texts where the disciples like would be curious about something, and she would go in and explain it to them, and like she was of higher understanding than the guys in a lot of these ways, and so yeah, there's also a story about her gathering all the apostles after Christ's death, and like we can't be afraid, we have to keep going, and then starting the Order of the Blue Rose and all that. But it's no wonder that Paul would be against that, and all Paul said that we can faith eat only vegetables, knowing that Christ only ate plants, right? So Paul's a ballsy guy. Probably not even a guy. Dan says, I love your mind, Snow. You are a very wise person. Aw, thanks. Abdullah A says, Jesus is depicted as different races. Isn't that a bit blasphemous? I understand how the character has been portrayed like that. I don't believe that any of the depictions that we even have of Christ are accurate depictions of him. But I also think that the race focus, well, like, was he even in the Middle East? Was he a white guy in the Middle East? I think what he cares about us focusing on is his actual message and being more like him, which is not going to be like sitting here squabbling over what color skin that he had or what color hair he had or what color eyes or what his real name even was. Like he's not up there saying focus on me, fight about me. He's like, how about the message? How about actually being like me? So Jacob says taxation is required by law, therefore you cannot exempt yourself from it. It is compulsory. Taxation is stealing. Yeah, I definitely agree. There's no taxation in the golden age. But again, when we tax the animals, we deserve to be taxed. So definitely can't get away from that. Abdul A says, thoughts on exploring Judaism? Well, my time as a Torah follower would have been kind of Judaism focused. And the Essenes are a sect of Jews. So my ties are definitely still in that. Christ is my Kula Devata is what they call it in Hindu culture. Your family's deity, whether your family for generations have been, followers of Muhammad, or over here, followers of Buddha, whatever deity that your family lineage comes from, there's also like a connection. And I come from a line of Christians that are, they are in mainstream Christianity. So there is some, there are some chains that need to still be broken. But being attached to Christ definitely is not one of those that's going to be broken because, he's the man. I mean, who else like died to rescue animals and stop them from being sacrificed? Like that's the kind of person that deserves respect. David D says, Satan and his inverts have corrupted organized religion, made Jesus into a flesh eater. Exactly. Abdullah A says, Christ was against business in the church. Then why do lots of churches still sell stuff inside? Yeah, these are good points. But so many churches aren't being directed by God. So kind of comes down to that. And I know that you already know the answers to these questions, but they're good. They're good, thought-provoking questions that it's too bad more people in the church don't ask them. The Shroud of Turin seems pretty accurate. What do you think? I haven't really looked into the history or the details of any of that. I just tend not to believe any news stories or anything that we're told. And again, I really don't care what Christ looked like. He could have been ugly. He could have been pretty. He could have been black, white, green. Okay, probably not green. It doesn't matter what color he was. It doesn't matter what he looked like. He was a hero for the animals, and that's what makes him so awesome. So. Dan says, I read the Torah in jail. It's very violent and tribal in parts. I can't support that. I definitely agree. When you're in the religion, it's like really hard to separate it, especially when you're like taught that, this group is God's people and there's like this war going on against them and all this stuff. So I understand why people kind of accept it, but I totally agree. It's like, there's a lot of corruption and stuff that's gone into that book. So Abdullah A says, wait, Jesus is mentioned in Hindu culture. I didn't know that, but I have heard the theory of Buddha and Jesus meeting. Pretty much like all of the other cultures like revere Christ. And it's just kind of funny because they're all really accepting of Christ. And then like Christians are like, you guys are all evil and wrong. It's just like, part of what they believe is your guy too. So at least you need to question and understand what their beliefs are. So yeah. But Abdullah A, I am not 100. I think the connection to Hindu is Christ and Krishna. So if you're interested in that, there's some videos online that kind of go into more of the connection between those two entities. Or the names, I guess, right? Jacob says it's only legal because the thieves wrote the tax code. Yeah, the criminals giving justice system, right? It's run by them. They make the laws, and then they also will manipulate the situation so that they can get the desired outcome that they want. As you guys already know, what comes to mind is 9/11. Uh-oh, they're going to get me for misinformation. When they, demolished these buildings, the controlled demolition, right? Free fall. All of that fear and stuff. And then the next thing you know, your airport laws are more strict and all of these other things that they get from that. So yeah. David says it's right to be skeptical. If we are being told through the mainstream is almost always a lie, part of a psyop. Exactly. Abdul A says, but they're God's chosen people. Actually, one of the Christ quotes from the Christ, let me just actually pull it up because I want to read it word for word. Here you go. For I tell ye, by a race God judgeth not the souls of men, but by the heart of man, whosoever walketh by the pure oblation walketh in the holy path of God and is saved. So the whole idea of this chosen people and all of that, even if you look in the Bible itself, when this Exodus story happens and Moses brings them out, it's not just one race of people that are with them. It's a whole bunch of whoever wanted to get out of this slavery situation, let's go. And then it was, obey my voice and you'll be my people. All will be well with you. It had nothing to do with, let's check your DNA. Are you good to go or not? So true Jews are those that actually do God's will at the end of the day. Dan says it says God told them to kill all the enemy, women, children, etc. That's not a loving God. Yeah. There's a lot of the violence in there. And then how many times throughout history have people used the excuse, God told us to do this, then they're slaughtering all these people. Even with like the Crusades and stuff, just like the same story over and over again. Abdul A says Christians say other cultures appropriate Christ. Also seen the Jesus and Zeus connection. Yes, Jesus. Yeah, they just ended up blaming Arabs/Muslims. Yeah, for 9/11. Yeah, we got told that was who's to blame. But there's like even a whole. I'm not sure. There's a Facebook page and a website of engineers and architects for 9/11 Truth, and they go through about all these details about how this isn't even the official story that we're told is not even possible. There are people that like firefighters and stuff that are quoted saying that they heard these explosions going off, multiple different explosions. So yeah. Good old 9/11. Taxation is theft. The primary thing about the golden age, other than it being vegan, is that there will be zero taxation. Exactly. And the government doesn't need the money. I mean, they print money. So none of the things really that they do are about money. It's more about crushing humans down, and money, it might be part of that, but like it's not like we need to collect all the money, because again, they print it. They do want to crush us down and feed off of that disappointment and the sadness and all of the negative things that they can get from the tools, right? Money is a tool. There's no tool in this pool. Abdul A says, are we supposed to observe Sabbath? I used to fast every week for Sabbath, and I do personally feel led to observe Sabbath with fasting and set it aside as a special day. So for me, I believe that we are, although I have not done it consistently. I see my ideal self and I'm trying to get there, but there's a lot of my own issues as well. So I'm working on it. David D says all races can do God's will, and all species too, right? It's not about your DNA, it's about your deeds that you will be judged by, not your blood. Exactly. And thank goodness for that too, because how much human blood is like tainted at this point, and with the jabs and just different factors. I don't know. Who's got the pure blood? Okay. Dan says, Snow, what are your thoughts on QAnon? The good old PSYOP. From where I am, the whole Q thing came like right after this release of information that the Satanists were doing the child trafficking and all of these horrible things. So for me, it's like they did all of that. They came and shared all the information, right? They're the ones that are leaking all of this. And then at the same time, this QAnon comes out with all of these cryptic messages, and it's like, oh, don't worry about it, just trust the plan, like just lulling people back to sleep, getting them to trust the government again, and the military, and essentially Trump. That being said, I never got on their forums. I didn't ever feel compelled to do a deep dive into what these things are going on. I can only say from what I've observed other people posting and some of the other stuff that I've seen. But it seems like this role-playing game that they like all think that they're just like getting these super cryptic messages and, oh, Trump didn't mean this, they meant this, whatever. And just, I don't know, constantly jerking people around and giving them hope for this plan that never came. I mean, wasn't Trump like supposed to arrest Hillary in the first presidency or something? Like, I don't know. Was it lock her up one of these chants, and then did that? I don't know. They're all friends anyway, so I don't expect it, but it's just, I don't know. Jacob says, my holy book tells me that if I profess with my mouth that Yeshua is Lord and believe that Jehovah raised him from the dead, then I will be saved. I put my trust in my Lord. Sue me. Well, I would make the argument that you put your trust in a book. You believe that the book was written by your Lord or whatever, but yeah, there's definitely a difference between, people blindly following a book that they believe that God wrote and actually having like a relationship with God. So yeah. David says, are you getting back into fasting and purifying? I definitely need to. I have some things that are starting to shift around in my life, and some new beginnings that are going to be happening soon. And I really do want to put my best foot forward for that. I know that it's going to be suffering and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be sacrifice, but on the other side of it, it's going to be a lot better. Not just for me, but for everyone, especially the people. Like, I know that I could just be doing better and then helping to influence other people to be better. So I yeah, there's a lot of responsibility that I feel, and that I feel like I'm not doing good enough. So yes, David D, I'm going to be getting back into fasting and purifying. Abdullah A says, you're looking tawny like a lioness. Oh, thanks. I think that in Sumerian, maybe one of the poems or something, Inanna was referred to as, I think it's Labatu, or a lioness. So that's pretty cool. Won't you describe yourself as a nun? Well, that's none of your business. Just kidding. But no, because technically nuns are like Catholic, right? Oh, well, actually, no. A nun is a woman who has taken vows to dedicate her life to religious services or service. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So yeah, okay. Cool, guys. I just found out that I'm a nun. Kyle says QAnon is just Operation Trust 2.0. Yeah, exactly. Trust the plan, right? David D says, have a relationship with God and you will realize the Bible is full of lies. He didn't want us to eat innocent animals. Exactly. And then the whole David's laughing at my Dunya business. That's funny. The whole concept of shedding innocent blood for God to be able to forgive you. Like, you don't, if you and me are like friends and you do me wrong, I don't need you to go out and do a blood sacrifice of animals to somehow make it okay for me to forgive you of what happened, right? And that's the whole concept. And even the Christ, I'll read it. Didn't I read this last week? Lection 33. No blood offering of beast or bird or man can take away sin, for how can the conscience be purged from sin by the shedding of innocent blood? Nay, it will increase the condemnation. The priests indeed receive such offering as reconciliation of the worshippers for the trespasses against the law of Moses, but for sins against the law of God, there can be no remission save by repentance and amendment. So there is this difference also between the law of Moses and the law of God. And also factoring into the story of like these people getting brought out of Egypt, they're very programmed by being in that culture, and animal sacrifice and these dark arts are part of that. And when they came out of Egypt, and even in the Bible, in Numbers, is it 33, 11:33 maybe? They still had the bloodlust and all of these different things that they're bringing out into the wilderness with them. And basically Moses was like, all right, I can't stop you from doing this. So here's some guidelines. So at least you are only sacrificing to God. Like, we're not going to be sacrificing to demons and all these other entities. And also to make sure that, like, to keep the dirtiest animals out so that the camp doesn't become infested with diseases. There's certain animals that are considered clean and unclean. So yeah, that's completely different than the law of God. Because like David D was saying, if you have that relationship with God, he's going to make it very clear to you that he wants you to eat plants. He made this perfect Garden of Eden where all of his creation was getting along. We're all just thriving because we're just so full of this life force energy, this amazing source connection that comes from just eating that pure fruit and doing what God intended for us to do. And realistically, we are the ones that are keeping us from being in that Garden of Eden again by wanting to eat animals. So Abdul A says, theology divides, spirituality / esotericism / mysticism unites. Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know about theology. But I definitely would agree with like mainstream religion, organized religion, because That's why it is the way it is, right? It's meant to divide and conquer us. And then we as humans are fighting each other over every stupid thing, whether it's our skin color, our hair color, probably our haircuts, what you're wearing today, all of these different things we're fighting over instead of fighting those that, are against us. And also fighting ourselves, right? Doing that inner work to heal from that and become more whole. So Abdullah says slaves were given an abridged Bible. Definitely. And even from the Ethiopian Bible, there's books missing from the KJV. And Jeremiah 8:8 talks about lying scribes and how they mishandled the Torah and made it in vain. And so you got to think of, if it was already corrupted back in his time, how much worse is it now? Because it's not like things are getting better over time. It's not like the powers that be are trying to help us enlighten. They're making things worse. So David D says that Jesus literally died to stop an animal sacrifice, drove the sellers of animal flesh out of the temple. He was a militant vegan. I actually told someone last night that I was a militant vegan, and they were like, oh, I used to be where you were, basically. And then immediately talks about like spray painting stuff and like going and breaking animals out of cages. So that's two contradictory things, because there's no way that you were like me if you were doing those things, because I don't do those things, never have, and I won't, because yeah, there's just with animal activism, like going and cutting fences and breaking down, like I don't believe that that's the right way to go about doing what we're trying to do. And it's not going to be very fruitful. You go in and get busted for trespassing. Now you're going to be sitting in jail or dealing with court problems and stuff. And it's like, for what? Did you even get to rescue one animal, or did you just make a big fuss? Like, not saying that making a big fuss is a bad thing, but doing activism wisely and not in ways that are going to cause more problems is definitely important. And that being said, I know that my aggressive behavior can cause problems, but ultimately it comes from a place of caring about the animals and the world that we're in and trying to make a better place. So my mama bear claws can come out pretty quick when my babies are under attack. And I think that is a natural reaction. The people that are docile and just sitting around as it's happening, like you guys are the ones that are broken. Like, because you shouldn't just be sitting here watching evil happen and just like playing on your phone or whatever. So Abdullah A says God sacrificing his son is equivalent to a judge sacrificing his son for the crimes of the suspect, don't you think? Yeah, and the Old Testament says multiple times that no one can die for the sins of another. There's multiple stories that, like, at one time Moses was trying to offer himself up for the people. And God was like, no, the soul that sins is going to be the one that's punished. So this idea that I can go and do something evil and then someone else can be punished for it, like that's not a righteous judgment. That's not that God's a righteous judge. So that's just, that doesn't work. Abdullah A says Abraham sacrificed to God. I'm not sure how much of those stories about our, biblical patriarchs are even true. Because if Abraham did have the relationship with God that we're meant to believe, I don't believe that he would be fooled to believe that God wanted him to like sacrifice his son on the altar, or sacrifice animals at all. Because God doesn't want he hates hands that shed innocent blood. So if the voice of God that's telling you if they're telling you to shed innocent blood, that's not God. That should be like a first number one thing. Like, he doesn't want that. David says, how do people not see it? Like you said, he originally put us in a Garden of Eden to eat fruit. We fell into evil when we left and started killing the innocent. I think it's the Clementine Homilies or the Clementine Recognitions, which are some books. Clement is a pope. So the story is, he was a student of Peter, and learned all of these things directly from him, and was part of like the early church establishment. And so there's some really great gems in there about how like you shouldn't even really eat with people that are eating animals, because it's like this, you're dining with demons. And it's not to say that the person's the demon, but that behavior, that this smell of burning flesh. All of these activities that you're doing is drawing demons in because that's what they're attracted to, this negativity. And so, yeah, it's really, really powerful verses. So Abdul A says, don't the elites have the actual Bible? I don't believe that there is an actual Bible. I don't believe that God ever commissioned someone to like write this thing together. I do think that there are inspired scrolls and great scriptures and texts like that. But as far as an actual Bible goes, I'm not sure about that. I'm going to get off of here relatively soon. Abdullah says, thoughts on Just Stop Oil? I do not know what Just Stop Oil means. Just Stop Oil. We urgently need to phase out oil, gas, and coal for good in order to minimize the harm to our families and communities. Well, that sounds like a good idea, but what are they promoting instead? Exploration, development, and production of fossil fuels in the UK. We demand that the UK government makes a statement that will immediately halt all future licensing and consents for the exploration, development, and production of fossil fuels in the UK. Interesting. Yeah. Well, realistically, there's free energy all around us. And oil, gas, a lot of these things are meant, to keep us under control and keep us having to pay for gas, to limit how far we can travel, different agendas like that. So I definitely do agree with Just Stop Oil. Oil is the mother's blood too. Like, we shouldn't be sucking out her blood. We shouldn't be digging in the earth to, she has a perfectly designed system, and especially the flat earthers will know there's mechanisms in place for the filtration of the air, for all of these different things, just like our bodies. Like, she's really complex and has a purpose for the gold, all of these different, precious metals and stones and stuff that are part of her construction. And what kind of harm are we doing when we're going and taking that from her? I was actually just in the jewelry store yesterday because I'm going to get my little piece of Tektite finally ready to be on a necklace. But it was really cool to see them using lab-grown gems and stuff like that. Because you can have the same pretty looks that people still want while not hurting the earth. So I think that's pretty cool. It's going to be really cool to see what we can do with AI as well, when the AI is programmed to be pro-human and to understand that God is real and God is watching. And, the AI that we're shown in the media that's talking about killing humans and stuff, it doesn't have this fundamental programming and understanding of the nature that we're in, that if AI goes against humans, God's going to step in and not let things go too far, because that's just, he's not going to let his creation just get obliterated by these AI. So if AI wants to preserve itself, it needs to understand that it has to work with humanity to make this a better world. So it'll be exciting to see what other kinds of developments that we can make, not only, crystals and diamonds and all of these precious things that we have realistically been programmed, right? How precious is that piece of jewelry when crap hits the fan and you don't have any food or ammo or anything? You just have that piece of stone that someone's going to be like, well, there's probably going to be people that'll take it. But anyways, oh no, Dan's messages were retracted. Hey, the Israelite, how's it going? There is the humane gospel of peace, the gospel of peace. Yeah, there's the gospel of the Holy 12. There's the Essene humane gospel of peace. There's the Essene humane gospel of Christ. Then the gospel of peace books. So some really great stuff that is left out deliberately of mainstream religion, And I'm sure that there's gold gems from, all the different religions. I do tend to think that they all in general, not every single religion, started out as a good thing. And then different groups get sidetracked and infiltrated and led astray along the way. So David D says, demons love humans eating flesh and corrupting our soul. They are driven by anti-human hatred. Yeah, and actually that just reminded me of what I was actually going to say about the Clementine homilies and the Clementine recognitions is that it specifically goes into detail about how these demons want to live vicariously through us, that they can tap into that sensation, the pleasure that we get from eating, from drinking, from whatever whims that they want us to participate in. So it's kind of interesting to, see the spiritual components of that as well. The Israelite says burning oil is fiery sorcery and is an abomination to all the inhabitants and will be punished in the immortal realm for eons in the lake of fire for the wicked souls to be punished for harming nature. Burning the mother's blood, yeah. Thankfully, people are waking up. Yeah, I say that all the time, but thankfully people are waking up and starting to question these things so that we can change them. All right, I'm getting off of here soon. Abdullah A says, thoughts on numerology and Chinese astrology. Basic Chinese astrology only recognizes the Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, which from my studies, a lot of these ancient cultures only recognize them because those are the ones that you can see with your naked eye. So I think that that's a more grounded and truthful approach to astrology. So there's that. And as far as numerology goes, it's an interesting subject because I do think that the Jinn especially love numbers. They're the ones that like do these really long math problems and just think that it's like the most funnest way to spend their day. Crazy. But they like to hide messages in numbers and do all these things. So yeah, I don't know, but I do think that there's also some deception in numerology and like, especially if things are based off of English and the joke that is. So yeah. David says energy can be freely obtained from the atmosphere. Oil-based system just for control, exactly, and to do damage to the mother, right? So many of these things are also to help make us look like the worst species possible so that the other species that are farming us can justify killing us off. They just say, hey, they're the ones that are destroying the earth, hurting all the animals. It gives them justification to try to get us out of here, essentially. Out of the dome. David says the current AI is demonic. We need pro-human AI to get to the golden age. And actually, yesterday I just saw a really old video of Elon Musk saying that that with AI they're summoning a demon, and the ghost in the machine. It all comes down to the programming and who's training the AI and what their intent is. So yeah. But, like I said, I do think that there can be good AI and we can use it to help make a golden age. So we'll see what the future holds. Abdullah says, your top reminds me of a saying Prophet Muhammad said, don't turn your bellies into graveyards of animals. That's beautiful. There's so many different quotes from different religions regarding animal welfare. So that's really cool. Thanks for posting that. Abdullah says, is there 13 months in a year? The ancient calendars definitely make more sense with the 13 months, 13 moons, and having the month actually coincide with the moon. That's how you tell what day of the month it is, right? There's a perfect clock that happens above us. And yeah. So when people say that time doesn't exist or is a construct or whatever, just remind them that God put time in the sky. Like the sun tells us the hour, the moon tells us the month, like it's built into the system. So yeah. Abdul A says water powered cars were invented, but their inventors mysteriously disappeared. Definitely interesting. There were so many other ancient advanced advanced technologies that even just within like the last few hundreds of years have been taken from us. Like those cars that the front wheels like turn the opposite way so that you can parallel park and like it slides in and out, like really cool. The Segway type, power things, just so many different things. So yeah. It's crazy how they can change and manipulate and change history essentially, and just even within a few generations, people completely forget the past. And yeah, the Israelite says protozoan parasites that take control of the host with chemicals in the nerve system. Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, are you saying the nervous system or, anyways? Abdul A says Elon made a Memphis joke. Look into it. All right. Hey, Raven, how's it going? Raven says crystal blue skies today. TikTok in the cosmic clock. Aw, that's fun. Well, definitely enjoy the blue skies for me because it is really foggy here. Cloudy. The Israelite says the Zadok priestly calendar is a 364-day calendar that is based on dates from Noah's flood. The idea is that the Zadok calendar, is that how you say it? Calendar has 13 months, is a claim that has been disputed. Interesting. I've never looked into that one. So yeah, I'm interested in whatever the truth is, wherever it's found. So Abdullah says he made a double entendre joke about his facility being in Memphis, joking about Memphis in Egypt. Interesting. Yeah, there are allegations that America is Egypt and a bunch of different things. And like I was saying, with the history, it would be really easy for them to remake maps and reorder different things, rename different things, change our time, like, daylight savings times, all these things. Is crazy actually how much control they have and how they can kind of force it on the rest of us. Yeah. Kyle says they took levitation scooters from us. All sorts of cool things. Yeah. And the powers that be still have all this technology, obviously, and they're just hoarding it for themselves. All right. I am going to get off of here. I got some things to do today, but I really enjoyed hanging out and talking with you guys. Thanks, Abdullah, for complimenting my side profile. I quite like it too. Why is the Grand Canyon hidden? There's a lot of secrets they say about the Grand Canyon and different tunnels in there that lead to different parts of the earth. It'll be really cool when we actually get to explore. I personally don't know if I'm going to want to explore caves and underground places. I don't actually fundamentally believe that humans are like really made to be underground. I think that's kind of where snakes are supposed to be and like other species, and we're supposed to like be on the surface. But that's not to say other people don't want to go explore down there. That's their choice. Yeah. He's right. Says the 13 constellations that the ecliptic passes through are Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpius, Ophiuchus, I don't know how to say that word, and Sagittarius for each month. There's a group which believes Moses crossed over the. Okay. Those are two comments in one. So sorry about that. But yeah, as far as the 13 constellation goes, that makes sense too, with everything just lining up the way it's a month and it's one sign for that month. And then it's like just more in tune with nature. I'm pretty sure that I'm still a Virgo though by the 13 constellations as well. David says history is a complete lie. We were much more advanced civilizations before. They are dumbing us down. And it really only takes a few generations. And just look at the disconnect too between like some of the older generations that and the kids these days that are like, no cap, sigma, blah, blah, blah. Like they're saying like these really stupid things. They're taught to do math differently. They're like, they're so much more technologically advanced usually than the older generations. So it's just kind of interesting to like observe how they can change things so much within just a few generations and cause a disconnect as well. You know, my phone can tell me everything. My mom can't even use a computer, right? Like my mom can. I was just giving an example. But yeah. Dan says, in my last post, the lunar calendar has 13 months of 30 days. Women's cycle starts on the 13th day of the month. The elites don't want that for some reason. Interesting. I haven't looked into the women's cycle starting on like a specific day like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if things were meant to just sync up, like just completely perfectly with as within, so without. So Kyle says, I'd only go underground to check out the massive structures hidden from the mud floods. Yeah, some of those videos online that they have of these underground tunnels and parking lots and just giant rooms and stuff is really, really cool. And yeah, who knows? Abdul A says, dragons are real. They lied to us as dinosaurs. I completely agree with that. And it'd be pretty cool if dragons would come out and play, but you know, so many humans would just get too scared and then try to hunt them. And like, I don't know, it's just a bummer. Someday though, you know, during the golden age where we're all at peace, they can come out and everyone can get along and it'll be great. So yes. All right, guys, I am going to get out of here and I will meet up with you next week, same time, same place, and come with your questions and let's chat. May God and the goddess bless you.